Hello, it's Susan Duclos with All News Pipeline. It's July 1st, 2017. I have to ask, I'm going to start this way, I'm going to end it this way. What the hell is going on here? In 2017, literal fake stories have spiked unbelievably to the point to where it's not even funny. It's a systematic thing across the board, from New York Times to Washington Post to BuzzFeed, AP now. Check out this clarification that came out from the AP. It's one paragraph, but it refers to stories published on April 6th, June 2nd, June 26th, and June 29th. The Associated Press reported that all 17 U.S. intelligence agencies have agreed that Russia tried to influence the 2016 election to benefit Donald Trump. Now, here's their correction. The assessment was based on information collected by three agencies: FBI, CIA, National Security Agency, and published by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, which represents all U.S. intelligence agencies. Not all 17 agencies were involved in reaching the assessment. We knew this because back when it was first reported, it came out, but nobody paid attention to it. They continued to say all 17. They're representing all 17. Now, AP is not the only one that had to do this past week. New York Times did too. Give me a second to find that. Okay. So on Thursday, the New York Times also issued a correction of June 25th White House memo report by correspondent Maggie Haberman. Now remember, Haberman is the one who knew Susan Rice was the one that unmasked Trump campaign members' names from NSA, and she sat on the story. We know this because Cernovich, who finally blew the story wide open because he had people inside the newsrooms that were saying, hey, they know this and they're not reporting it, so go with it. Maggie Haberman and somebody at Bloomberg knew. And this was basically proven because after Cernovich reported on it, Bloomberg came out the next morning reporting on it after Cernovich had said they know about it and they've been sitting on it. So while that's another story, Haberman here, she's known for not exactly being truthful. So the assessment was made by 4 intelligence agencies. It was not approved by all 17, though. Now, the Times retraction fails to reflect the fact that even those 4 agencies weren't in full agreement. The AP story also didn't mention that. You'll notice it was just that one paragraph correcting a story back from April to June 29th. So they knew for months that they were falsely reporting. And the reason this is so annoying is because if you go over to these liberal sites or even on Twitter or Facebook and you see these liberals talking, that's their biggest talking point. 17 organizations said it. No, they didn't. The media lied to them, and all of a sudden it became their favorite talking point. The National Security Agency is the main body that can trace and track all incoming and outgoing cyber activity on U.S. networks, according to the CIA analyst Ray McGovern. They offered moderate confidence level in the allegations of Russian hacking in the report cited by the Times. If this was a hack, NSA would know about it. NSA does not know about it, he said in an April interview, and the interview is linked there. Matter of fact, when the CIA and FBI said we have high confidence, NSA, which is the only real agency that has the capability to trace these things, said, well, we only have moderate confidence. In the Army, we call that the swag factor, a scientific wild ass guess. Okay, so now we've had the whole meme that has been screeched from the left for 6 months. 17 agencies. And we find out what was reported originally never made it to the wires, you know, when we first found out that all 17 were not behind it. And even the news organizations have lied so much they've started to believe it, and they're having to issue retractions. But that's not all. Let's take a look at the latest CNN screw up. This is over at page 6. Now, before getting into this latest one, what does CNN do? Oh yeah, they're engulfed in one of the biggest scandals ever because they put out fake news, and we're not just saying it's fake news. 3 members of their organization were forced to resign because it was fake news. They retracted the story. They deleted all links to the story, although it is up in archives, and we've discussed this previously, so I'm not going to get too much into that one. Then you have the Project Veritas videos that came out showing that CNN producers are calling voters effing stupid. Um, they're saying that they knew that the Russia story was BS, and they actually say that on tape. And what else? Oh, yeah, Van Jones also was caught calling the Russia issue a nothing burger. So they've been reporting on this Russia thing for 6 months, knowing it was BS. So what did they do this time? Well, it seems last night, according to page 6, they flew into a panic because it accidentally aired a fake National Enquirer cover during Jake Tapper's broadcast. Tapper did a segment on his The Lead Show about the whole Scarborough Mika idiocy with Trump, where now they're saying he tried to blackmail him, but the White House is saying, or Trump is saying, they came to him to try and get him to stop a National Enquirer piece. Whatever that is, they put out a fake news cover in the midst of being in the biggest scandal of their lifetime after having to retract that fake story, and those people were fired. Now remember, AT&T is working on a deal to buy Time Warner, which owns CNN, and reports have come out from multiple sources now. You can find them, just look for the word Jeff Zucker and neutralize, where they say that as part of this, they do plan, if they buy Time Warner, to neutralize Zucker. Basically, either get rid of him or put him in a position where, and I believe this was the quote from the New York Post, that's the piece you want to look for, put him in a position where he has no power, over content. They're really messing up here. Now, let's take a look at, oh yeah, we're going to just go on to some of the 217 stuff real quick. Okay, this is over at the Daily Caller. Now, I can hear liberals right now. Daily Caller, oh wow, they're a conservative outlet. Doesn't matter. They link to everything here that they're saying. You'll see these in red. These are all links. So they're sourcing it. I'm using it. They're discussing the fake news. Now, we've already gone over CNN, the retracted story, the resignations. Oh, let's not forget Kathy Griffith was fired for holding up that mock Trump bloody head. So she's no longer going to be hosting their, I believe it's their New Year's extravaganza. And this guy, Reza Aslan, he was fired also, or had his show taken away because of his anti-Trump stunts. And then they discussed the video that we did. But let's go to Washington Post. Seduced with a Russian narrative on December 30th, the Post, and they do link to it again to prove their assertions, published a story claimed Russian hackers penetrated the U.S. electricity grid. Turns out the story was completely false after investigation officials determined Russian hacking was malware found on one laptop triggered by an employee checking his Yahoo Mail, and the malware had no connections to Russia or Russian hackers at all. Days later, the Post was forced to issue a new article which said Russia wasn't behind it. Again, these unnamed anonymous sources just are really messing these people up. At least that's what I always thought. But at this point, they're just making stuff up on their own now, because now that Comey's gone, they no longer have their person orchestrating leaks. And remember, he admitted to orchestrating a leak, so we know he's not above it. Same month, the Post reported a story sourced from CrowdStrike, a firm hired by Democratic National Committee to investigate the hack on their email servers. The findings concluded there was a link between the group that hacked the DNC and Russian military intelligence arm. By March, CrowdStrike was forced to revise and retract those statements made about Russian hacking following a report released showing they misrepresented the data. The Post has yet to revise or append their original report. That's because they want that storyline out there. Why would they revise it? They'll just wait a few months like the AP and New York Times did and then revise it after it's become a meme and after it's been solidified in people's minds that it's true when it's complete BS. Prior to former FBI Director Comey's testimony before Congress on June, President Trump claimed Comey told him 3 times he was not personally under investigation. The Post reported that people familiar with the matter said that Trump's claim was inaccurate. Problem is, and we have the video, folks, Comey did say 3 times. We also embedded the Comey prepared statement, 3 separate occasions. What did he tell Trump? He told Trump he wasn't under investigation. And then they say, and the Post has yet to correct that record either. And perhaps the Post's most desperate bit of fake news was the report of a Russian propaganda campaign by websites that were critical of American foreign policy deemed not aggressive enough on Russia. On the list of Russian propaganda sites were Drudge Report, WikiLeaks, along with sites on the left critical of Hillary Clinton. They put us on that site too, folks. Oh, yeah. And the Washington Post cited this anonymous group of researchers called Propernaut. At first, they called them experts, and then they ended up putting correction on saying, we can't verify that, these people are on the up and up. In other words, they couldn't vouch for their credibility. That's the word I'm looking for, vouch. So first they call them an expert, but then they say they can't vouch for the credibility. Damage done. It was out there. Now, BuzzFeed reporter Sheriff Frankel refused to report on the group's research, tweeting, "A lot of reporters passed on this story." The Post later added an editor's note saying they do not vouch for the study's findings, but they kept the article up regardless. Let's look at the New York Times. Oh, yeah. New York Times, on a February 14th piece, when James Comey was testifying, he was asked straight out, was it true? No, it was not true. Comey also specified that many of the stories in the MSM about Russia were, and I quote, dead wrong. But they're still up. They're still up. Liberal leftists are still quoting these people. I'll put this link in there. They also cover BuzzFeed's antics also. These are just the tip of the iceberg on what these people have been doing. But in the last month, I mean, look at the AP, look at New York Times, CNN. We're talking, this is going across the board. These people are not just getting fed bad information and running with it without bothering to verify. They're actually making stuff up. It's costing them jobs. I mean, 3 CNNs in 1 week, people had to, be forced to resign. This has gotten out of control, folks. I'm gonna repeat the same thing I said at the beginning. What the hell is going on with these people? Have a good day.